everybody, this is Pastor Sean Odom from Crosspoint Church in Weatherford, Oklahoma with your God is Awesome and the Bible is Cool vlog. Today's focal passage is Hebrews chapter 13 verse 1 through 3. I want to go ahead and read that for you to begin, and then we'll get right into it. So, got to put on my my eyeballs here. So, it says, keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing, some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Continue to remember those in prison as if you were together with them in prison, and those who are mistreated as if yourselves are suffering. So, what do we know about this, or what can we learn about this? Let's talk. The unknown often speculated on author of Hebrews. We don't know who wrote it, but he makes this concise directive statement in this 13th chapter of Hebrews. He says, in the first verse, he says, keep loving each other as brothers. There really is not a simpler way to sum up the verses that immediately follow it either. The writer is giving his audience a command to follow. And in the next couple of verses, he's going to give them examples of how to obey that command. In verse 2, the author cautions the readers not to forget to entertain strangers. And the word entertain here can be translated as show hospitality to or show love to. Now, first of all, if you show love to those you meet, even if you don't know them, basically you're going to receive a blessing because you've obeyed God's command to love. But beyond that, you never know who you might be showing kindness to. Many of you have heard the old chicken soup for the soul stories, and those aren't all necessarily great considering the author. However, many of you have heard the chicken soup for the soul stories of people extending love to others, and unbeknownst to them, the person they helped was a celebrity or a rich person, and returned the favor with this magnificent gift or charity to the person who helped them. Now, these are stories of examples of the show love to everyone idea that I think that kind of captures Hebrews 13, but what we cannot expect is to get something in return. It needs to be a selfless type of love. However, according to verse 2, the very person you might be showing this selfless type of love to could be a messenger from God himself, entertaining angels. Now, in the next verse, the writer of Hebrews presses his readers to remember those in prison and those who are suffering. Now, it might be difficult to imagine loving a hardened criminal, aside from those interesting people who, fall in love with, people who are in jail and write them letters and send them money and stuff like that. But that's a different story entirely. But for most people, it's difficult to imagine loving a hardened criminal. They've done some despicable things to get where they are. But see, the thing is that they need a love of Jesus just as much as we do. You and I and they and everyone else in between, we're no different in our need for the love of Christ. We are all sinners in the eyes of God and in need of his grace. So, with that, we are also supposed to remember those who are suffering. But it's interesting to note, as the author says, we need to remember prisoners as though we were prisoners and sufferers as though we were sufferers. What that means is we need to be empathetic. We need to feel their pain. We need to have enough love for them to see that they too are children of God, that they too are in need of God's grace and love and mercy. That way, when we cry out to the Father on their behalf, it's coming from a real place of love for the people. And it's not just a passing thought. This is true compassion. This is true love for the individual. And this is the way that we are supposed to behave. In Jesus' name. Have a great one. Hope to see you on Sunday. God bless.